GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
And the dude is already gone to sleep. Oh, I have windows open. Let's go. Why do I have windows open? Oh, is that just this? Where's that going? Oh, maybe I just haven't run this down. Ooh, it's from me. Alright, so we'll end at that. Just got the dog all upset. He had to stand up again. Very lazy dog, so he doesn't like having to stand up like that. Starting something new here again. It's Mondays, and traditionally, our traditional Monday activity on the Daily Gun Show for 1,600 something episodes has been to do interviews. So what we're going to do is share the screen over here. Oops, that's the wrong button. We're going to share the screen, not this screen, but this screen over here. And just go ahead and share that real quick. We'll take Dude here and we'll move him down right on top where it says a little scroll there that says to our Patreons, make it possible for us to spend time on projects like this. Thank you for that. Taking a little break from our other activities to work on some Second Amendment stuff here. Again, thanks to the people that participate in what we do so that we have a reason to be doing this stuff. So over the years, we've done lots and lots of interviews, and I figured we would start off getting back into the pace of interviews with some reruns, some restreams, so to speak. So we're going to go into our videos and we'll click, we'll search for interview. So Roy's out here right now. If you want to pick, oh look, puppy's waving at you. Are you waving at Roy? Let's say he was waving at you. Anyhow, you're the one that's out here right now live. If you want to chime in, let us know which one of these interviews you might want to do. I think I have one in mind, but if you've got something else, feel free to suggest something. But let's see, some of the things that we've got here in the list. I'm assuming my audio is doing okay. First one in the list here is Dennis Tueller from the 21-foot rule. That was from 12 years ago, so that was an old one. We got one that we horked off of the Johnny Roland Shooting Show, an interview with Charlie Beckwith. Pretty cool. It's just a short one, but it's pretty interesting. Here's a conversation with Chris Costa back from 2012. There's this show. What do you know? Here's a conversation with Mike Deddy from just 9 years ago. That's the one I was thinking we'll do. Start off with, unless somebody's got something else to talk about. We've got conversations in here. Another one with Chris. Here's one with the Wayne Baker from Freedom Arms 12 years ago, back when we were doing the kind of first discovering the tiny revolvers and the lineage and the stories of those. Talk to Wayne every year at SHOT Show. Just to kind of say hey and let him know that there's people out here that are nuts for the tiny revolvers and appreciate his efforts there. Then we got Boje and Dottie from the AA-12 full auto shotgun back in 2012. Met up with them and got a bunch of interviews. Back in 2010, that would have been an NRA show in North Carolina. Interview with FBI Nix, talking about, I think it was something about background checks, obviously, but I think it was something about, I've always been skeptical of Nix records indicating anything outside the variable of universal background checks. So in other words, when you create universal background checks, you can't then say, oh, more guns got sold, because all of a sudden you have to record every single gun being sold legally. Or legally, to be legal, you would need to list every gun being sold. And if everyone complied, then the normal guns going back and forth between friends at hunting season and normal activity would all of a sudden be tracked and be counted as new activity, and that's fake. So I think even back then in 2010, I was trying to get an answer on that, I think. But that's a quick one. That's just a couple of minute interview there. Of course, we have a conversation with Cheryl Todd in here. There's quite a few with Charles Heller. This one is with Phil from Masterpiece Arms back on our 2012 tour. We interviewed quite a few people around the country, manufacturers and that. There's a conversation with Kerry McWilliams, the blind shooter. Cool dude who goes hunting. He's blind, he goes hunting, and he's got CCWs in quite a few states. Here's one with Dan Southard, pretty cool dude who was there when the Berlin situation happened during the Cold War. There's DJ out here. If you want to welcome, if you want to suggest something, feel free. We're going to kind of go through and do a couple of these small ones or else one of the longer ones. This is a pretty bad search. I'm going to have to figure out a better way. I can't remember what the name on my playlist is where I put all these. I know it's called Second Amendment Activists, but I got too many playlists, so I thought I could search for them. I think I'm just going to go ahead and go with this one with Mike Deddy.
Also, what ran me afoul of ATF.
So this is from 9 years ago. It says, wow, has it been that long? Holy moly. So here's a hack for YouTube. When you click on the thing where it says 9 years ago, then it'll toggle to the actual date. So this is from March 13th of 2014. Wow, that seems like forever ago, but at the same time, wow. So I first met Mike Deddy after he wrote his book. He was kind of going around and letting the gun shops know, and that's when I first met him. I was hanging out at the gun shop, and he came in, and I was like, oh, hey, man, I do YouTube and stuff. Let's chat. And then so we started chatting, and then a couple of times did interviews. We've met up and just hung out and stuff, and then in 2014, this must have been at the first, honestly, I don't remember, but essentially in 2014, they were going to film the movie 600 Miles. It's actually called 600 Millas. And it's a story of, portion of the story is the guns being trafficked from the United States into Mexico. And they filmed that at a couple of different gun stores in Tucson. And then they filmed it they filmed this fake gun show. And a bunch of us got paid to show up at this fake gun show, including Mike. So while they were filming the movie, we filmed this interview. So that's a long lead up to Mike and I are friends. We were hanging out at this movie set, essentially. Both of us getting paid to be there. And then I was like, hey, let's make a video, dude. And here we go.
We were here at the backstage, I guess. I don't know how you call this, but at a mock gun show here at the behind the scenes for, I think it's called 600 Miles. It's a movie that they're making, kind of not about Fast and the Furious and
Gun trafficking, for sure.
Gun trafficking, yeah.
With a twist.
And we're here talking to Mike Deddy, who obviously is known for
Guns
most recently the book, but the story behind that.
Right. Operation Wide Receiver was an investigation I brought to ATF's attention and worked on for about 3 years, as well as 2 other major cases. And it all involved guns being trafficked to Mexico. And the promise that I would be helping and taking out a powerful drug cartel, that's what I was originally enlisted to help them with.
I think it's, I read the book, and it was one of those books that you can't even put down, especially being a gun show person from Tucson. It was neat to try to figure out what shows you were talking about or alluding to and the dealers you were talking about. But I also thought it was interesting that I never thought about it, but as a confidential informant, most of the time those are criminals that they're somehow got their thumb on. And
That
you were the total different to that. So it was almost like they didn't know what to do, and you kind of suffered the...
Well, I did suffer, but it also kept me safe. In most circumstances, confidential informants are people that have a prison sentence or charges looming over them. And that gives the feds or the local police, whoever they're working with, that gives them a great deal of leverage in getting that person to do things they wouldn't normally do. My case was different in that I was just trying to be a patriotic guy and bring something I saw that was wrong to the federal agent's attention. So when things got bad for me, when after Brian Terry was killed and both the ATF and DOJ were coming out and saying they had never trafficked guns across the border, there wasn't much they could do to shut me up. They had no leverage over me. I became an informant for all the right reasons. And much to their detriment, there was nothing they could do to shut me up. I mean, there was intimidation on their part. There was some harassment. They got into my computer and corrupted some audio files and conducted an audit where they had lost some serial numbers and then told me I'd probably face criminal charges. Things like that. But the documentation that I kept during the 3 years that I worked as an informant is, in the end, what saved me. It is also what ran me afoul of ATF was the fact that I had double sets of records on everything I did for them. And pretty much that documented their first attempt at gun walking, which was Operation Wide Receiver. 2 years later, Fast and Furious developed from that case.
And we hear about Fast and Furious all the time, but it's really Project Gunwalker that gave them the idea that unfortunately, that they could run with it, I guess.
Right. Operation Wide Receiver began in 2006, and people ask what the difference between Fast and Furious is. And there's a lot of commonality, but the biggest one is that it started with the special agent in charge of the Phoenix office, and that was William Newell. And he's a person who is basically a mid-level manager that was able to devote millions of dollars of resources, thousands and thousands of hours of manpower towards letting these guns walk across the border. And some of the common myths you read about or hear about in the media are that, well, under President Bush in 2006, Operation Wide Receiver, he did it right. He had tracking devices on the guns, and they were working with the Mexican authorities. And none of that's true.
Yeah, you cover that in the book.
There was no ongoing coordination or cooperation with the Mexican authorities. And there was one attempt to put a tracking device in a gun, and it failed. It was never fielded. We never used it in the investigation. That's been reported erroneously. I even saw it reported at the congressional hearings. It's just not true. But the thing we had in common between Wide Receiver and Fast and Furious was a special agent in charge again, Bill Newell. And he's a person who continues to be employed by ATF. It's still a special agent and still draws a paycheck and is working towards his pension and so forth. And it's absolute criminal, but what you have to keep in mind, he's also the person who knows exactly what President Obama is hiding behind executive privilege.
Now, something that I thought was interesting as far as the confidential informant, you said that, again, you were in a different circumstance than normal. I questioned because you didn't mention it in the book. I don't know if you know. Did they change their policies? Do they have policies in place now for non-criminal confidential informants? Did you break any ground there, do you think?
I don't think so. I think that regardless of if you're a good guy or a bad guy, if you have charges looming or not, that ATF style always has been. I mean, that's their history is to kind of rule through intimidation. And it's endemic in that organization. I mean, even as far as supervisors are concerned and everything, they have a long, filthy history of just intimidating people that don't go along with the status quo or go against something that's wrong, trying to stand out and do the right thing. John Dodson is a perfect example. He was a whistleblower on Fast and Furious. And while he's been able to remain an ATF agent, he's been ostracized by his fellow agents. He's treated with contempt. He goes to work every day and walks into rooms full of people who all turn their backs on him. I mean, it's a terrible thing for a person to have to go through for doing the right thing. And of all the people that were involved in that Phoenix fiasco, Fast and Furious, he's the only one with balls to come out and say, yeah, we did it. It was wrong. We should have done it. And I'm sorry for the Terry family.
Well, thanks for your time here, and I'm not sure when they're going to get us to start doing stuff, but I can definitely encourage people to get a copy of the book. You can get it on audio, you can get it on
audio and ebook formats,
yeah.
Amazon and Barnes & Noble book have it, and I think Books A Million also.
Thanks again, Mike.
Thank you.
So here's a couple of shots of the show.
So, Mike, one of the things I was curious about, I mean, I know you covered it a lot in the book, but what kind of guns do the cartels prefer?
What they bought for me, primarily, they bought a lot of AR-15s on the cheaper end, with big arms blinkers. And,
so it was quantity and cost over quality?
Yes. 16-inch barrel lengths were preferred. They also bought a lot of the Romanian Wasser AK-47s, the semi-auto variants, because they were cheap at that time.
And what years were these with the Wassers?
This was between 2006 and 2010.
Okay, so this is definitely post-ban when the Wassers were coming in with the single stacks and the double stacks and were super plentiful.
Yeah, and they were paying about $3.99 a piece for them back then. And then the other guns were Colt 38 Supers.
And that's because they can't have military calibers, so they would go with the 38 Super over a 45.
Right. And in the old days, they couldn't have military caliber. Now they can.
Oh, now
technically, they can't have any guns.
Oh, okay.
But the 38 Super has always been a favorite with the Mexicans for that reason, and remains so. It's a popular cartridge with the cartels. The guns they were buying for me were embellished 38 Super Colts with engraving and gold inlay and so forth. And they were using them as kind of rewards for the top lieutenants would get these as a gift from the cartel head for doing a good job. So they wore them like
medals or badges.
Badges or some weight off.
It meant you had some clout in the organization.
Exactly. If you were wearing one of these guns, it meant you done something above and beyond.
Now, you talked a little bit in the book about how one of the things that alerted you in the first place was they wanted to convert AR lowers to full auto because that takes some machinery. Did they try to do any other manipulations that would be technically legal with the NFA, like short barrels? You mentioned 16-inch barrels.
Yeah, they at one point in time they were buying AR-15 pistols from me and also getting the collapsible buttstock. So basically, if you took the pistol and screwed in the M4 buttstock, now you have a short barrel rifle.
Now, were they prosecuted for that manipulation to become registered?
In Operation Wide Receiver, the only prosecution, the only charges that were filed were for lying under 4473.
For that whole straw purchase thing that you cover in the book quite a bit.
Right. That's it.
Okay. I think we're getting scolded. Okay, thanks, Mike.
All right. Here we go. Here we go.
This is the movie being filmed.
The guys and gals of Gun Webs.
And I had to put my camera away because I get mad if I was holding a 2000 whatever year that was 4 camera. It was supposed to be an earlier thing, so earlier time frame, I think. So that was an interview with Mike Detty, and as he talks about some of the different aspects of the book and the situation that he had to experience with that. That was the let's go back to some of these screenshots. This was the filming of the movie 600 Miles. And the way that worked was this was a school, and this was the cafeteria or else the gym or maybe both of a little kid's school, like an elementary school. So it was a pretty small room for what it was. And they went to one of the gun show promoters, a friend of mine, and asked them to create a gun show for them. So that gun show promoter went to all the cool people that had cool tables at gun shows, that were kind of a sample set of a gun show, and asked them to bring in, set up like if they were going to do a gun show, except that, we weren't selling nothing. It wasn't really a gun show. It was just a movie set. And then all these people in the aisles are just extras that show up. I guess there must be some kind of like forum for people that do this, act for a living or act for a hobby, I guess, because I don't think any of them got paid anything except to eat. So, or maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe they got paid $45 or something. I can't remember. But they could eat for sure. So anyway, all these people were just actors, and they were just regular people. So some of them liked guns. Some of them didn't know what they were doing. They just knew they were showing up to be in a movie. And then all the people behind the tables are the people who would normally be at a gun show setting up the table. But what happened is we all just brought our cool stuff. Like none of us brought our normal gun show stuff. We just brought
stuff that we thought was cool, like our collections and things like that. At least I did. So I had a whole bunch of my AKs there, and I had a bunch of my other collections spread out. There was a whole bunch of Every Second Matters stuff on the table, a whole bunch of Gun Channel stuff on the table, and some other stuff, some different logos and patches and things. But and there was a point where, as they were filming, well, okay, so first off, they filmed this gun show, and they did this with the guy from Wings. There was one of the actors from the TV show Wings, was the original star of this movie. So they came in, they set up this gun show. We all got paid to bring in our stuff and just hang out for pretty much a whole day. And they filmed like 3 versions of it and then sent everybody home. So we all got there early, set up, hung out, pretty much watched our table so nobody stole nothing, and then packed up and left. So it was a lot shorter than a regular gun show, but we all got paid a bunch of money. It was great. So we all got paid, and we're all happy, and it was awesome. And you basically got paid by how many tables you had there. Well, the first time they filmed it with the guy from Wings, I forget the guy's name, but oh man, I can't think of his name. Peyton or something, or Patton. So one of the guys from Wings, and he's been in some other stuff too, actually. Whatever happens, they never made the movie, right? So they never make the movie. And then we get contacted and they go, hey, we're going to make the movie, but we're going to make it with this other guy, so we got to film it with this other guy. And it turns out to be the guy from some other movies. I forget his name. You'll see it here in a second because I'm going to show the trailer. So they filmed it a second time. We all got paid a second time to set up. And the second time we got set up, the one guy didn't show up, so I got essentially even more tables. So I got paid even more. It was great. Able to bring out even more stuff. It was a lot of fun. I don't know if the crowd was the same or not, but I didn't want to be in the movie. So a friend of ours was just stood in behind the table and act like the person selling my stuff. And then essentially me and Mike Deddy were walking around the gun show kind of rogue, because everybody had sort of a route they were supposed to be taken, and me and Mike just walked around. So it was kind of fun. But essentially they filmed this thing twice, and they did make the movie eventually, and that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to just add to that interview a little bit, some of the behind the scenes. So this is the trailer of that movie, and you'll notice the guy who's in it. I can't think of his name. So it starts off, it's about this one kid, and he's got his friend. This is the friend, and this is a place called Second Amendment Sports here in Tucson, and that was a gun shop, or it probably is still a gun shop here in town. It's kind of right in the middle of town. This is filmed just somewhere. I mean, I kind of know where, but this is just filmed somehow. So this is Second Amendment Sports. This is what that looks like in there. The center of their store is all the cleaning kits and the targets and the accessories and the grips and the this and that, and maybe the reloading stuff. Now the reloading stuff's in a different room, but you can see it's a bunch of stuff. And then the walls are all pegboard. I think it's pegboard. Yeah, it's pegboard. And all these guns are just on hooks. So it's pretty impressive. It's been like that for a long, long time, even when it was Jensen's, for people who know what's going on here. So this was his friend going in and buying stuff, straw purchasing. And so that's Second Amendment Sports. You come in through the reloading room, and sometimes it's the fishing room, and sometimes it's the like flashlights and ADC stuff or CCW stuff, holsters and that. Sometimes it's the hunting room, but it's almost always reloading. And then you come through that room and you come into the main shop here. And as you come into the main shop, see where it says gunsmithing back here? That's where the gunsmith is. These are all new guns to the left. And then they just don't show it, but to the right of gunsmithing, that would have been all the used guns. So it's a pretty good shop, a pretty interesting shop. So this is the kid who it's about, and I think that's his mom. I don't really remember. So it's about this kid from Mexico, and he comes up to the United States to buy guns. He has his friend buy the guns, and then he straw purchases them off of them, or whatever that's called. And then, I don't think that's his mom. That's just some lady he's being mean to. I forget what happened. So here's the gun show. So here's the guy the second guy they filmed. And here's where we were standing. So essentially, me and Mike just filmed that the video interview you watched over there, where this lady's standing. We were standing right over here, looking this way. And then in this movie, this guy comes in, he walks around, he goes over and he looks at some photographs. And he's looking at these photographs for no reason at all, except to try to create some kind of connotation, I suspect, because they're photographs of they're like World War II black and white photographs of Nazi shit. And when he's looking at them, they made a big point of putting out this Nazi thing right next to where the pictures were. So I don't know if it's supposed to be some artistic shit that I don't get, or if the guy was supposed to be just picking something up randomly and it happens to be Nazi shit. But here's the real world. There's never Nazi shit at gun shows. It doesn't happen. People don't like it, and it's just never at gun shows. I mean, there might be something here and there, but it's never like hanging out at gun shows. People don't like it. There's no interest in it. And then it all got cut from the movie. It wasn't in the movie or nothing. And that was just during the first filming. So they didn't include any of that shit in the second filming. But, or wait, did they? No, it was this guy that picked it up. So it was only in the second movie, the second filming, that they added that shit, I think. I'm trying to remember. It's been a long time. But in any case, that's where I was able to plant a whole bunch of gun channel shit. So if they would have used that scene when he went to go pick up the photographs, it wasn't like it was only Nazi shit. It was this big table of stuff. And then there just happened to be this like Nazi medal that they placed on top of these photographs that he picks up. And they're like some photographs of like a grandma and a grandpa who are Nazis, like eating dinner or something. It was like some just dumb photographs that just happened to, you could tell it was Nazi shit. And then, anyway, so they cut all that. But essentially he walks in, looks down at this table, at this crap, and then gets up, walks underneath the sign over here. And then the bad guy, the kid, the friend of the bad guy, I guess, who the movie's about, he goes over and talks to the guy with the blue tablecloth here. This guy standing here and tries to buy a gun off of him or something. And then this guy comes over and has this weird ass conversation like, you know, hey, I'm just asking you about every day. It's so weird. So that's the portion of the movie that includes the gun show. So it's about maybe 10 seconds of the movie, 30 seconds of the movie. I doubt it's a whole minute of the movie. Can't even imagine how much they spent to make that 1 minute of the movie. But it's like in the trailer like 4 times, and it's only in the movie for moments. And at the beginning of the movie and the first couple of minutes of the movie, and then the entire rest of the movie is in Mexico, and it's about, is this Tim Roth? Is that his name? It's about this guy being essentially kidnapped by the kid. I hope I'm not, it's probably spoiling it, but I don't think there's any other plot to the movie. But the trailer, it's all about this stuff. Like if you think it's going to be some kind of movie about gun smuggling, like all this stuff takes place within the like first 4 minutes of the movie, and then it's just all in Mexico in the car this guy's driving. So I guess that's what happened, is they spent all their money doing this for some reason, and then the rest of the movie is essentially always just like in a trunk of a car or in a single room. So I'm going to just thumb through the trailer here. There's no need to watch the whole thing. But so that was the gun show scene. And then there's blah, blah, blah. This is Tucson Guns. So that's Tucson Guns. And Bob got a speaking role in the movie. And so the kid comes out of the door of the gun shop. This is the gun shop I always just hang out at. And he's got these boxes, which he's carrying like, no big deal. I'm carrying 2 AR-15s. And everybody knows if they're in that box, that means they're in a big, giant, Plano case or something. Like an MTM plastic case with foam and everything. Like there's no way this little kid is just grabbing 2 AR-15s under his shoulder and then a giant bag of what's supposed to be Glocks or something. It's ridiculous. Plus, like, Bob would just sell some random kid like all this shit, but whatever. So he's also just standing like 10 feet away on this bench. Like it would be so noticeable. Like this kid in his peripheral would see this guy standing here. It would be, there was nothing else out here. It'd be like you walk into a room and there's somebody else in the room. You notice that person. Anyhow, this is Tucson Guns. This is just some room somewhere. Nobody knows. I'm trying to figure out where this is. I feel like it's in front of Miller Surplus. I'm actually positive it's in front of Miller's Surplus, because doesn't that look like desert camo? Yeah, this is in front of Miller's Surplus. I think I know that because in the movie he comes out of Miller's Surplus. That's kind of downtown. This is... most of the movie looks like that. Most of the movie is just like farting around in that SUV in the dark like this. This is a part of the movie where he fights again with some people in a house. And eventually I'm watching this more because they're going to keep showing the gun show and the gun shops and stuff at the end of the trailer to make you think that that's going to be part of the movie again. And here's the spoiler. They only show that stuff for moments at the beginning, and then it's not about it anymore at all. But there was something else over here. That's him walking out of Tucson Guns. So they filmed twice at Tucson Guns. And then there's another scene where he's like walking out of the gun show, and it's pretty obvious. Here it is, where it's pretty obvious it's at a school. And I don't know if that's supposed to be part of the movie, because, there's the playground and stuff. This is what a playground looks like in Arizona. It looks like a bunch of sand, hard packed sand, and then playground equipment made out of metal in it. But, it's like gun show and then at a school. How often does that happen? No, I've never seen that happen before. So it was in the movie. Anyway, you can watch the movie once. It's not that good a movie. But it is neat to know people that are in the movie. And then, we got paid twice. Got paid good money. Hundreds and hundreds of bucks. It was pretty fun. All right, well, that was the interview with Mike Detty, talking about his involvement in the situation called Operation Wide Receiver that would become Operation Fast and Furious. So Wide Receiver was essentially that kind of thing. Some kid came up to Mike at a gun show, and said, "Hey, I want to buy a bunch of AR receivers from you," or something like that. And Mike was like, "Oh, that's weird." So the kid did, and then came back to buy even more. And that's when he went to the ATF guy and was like, "Hey, this kid keeps buying AR receivers, and he doesn't seem like he knows what he's talking about. It seems like he's straw purchasing them or something." And they said, "Oh, okay, well, blah, blah, blah." And then that turned into Wide Receiver. Wide Receiver. And essentially ATF just kept telling Mike, whatever the cartels come in and ask you for, just sell it to them. No worries, just sell it to them. And it turned into a pretty interesting and long-term thing down here in Tucson. And once it became evident to Mike that it wasn't really to try to stop the cartels as much as try to get to the guns into Mexico, so that, question mark, why are they trying to do this? Like, that's all they were really trying to do, is get the guns into Mexico. He started to get way more apprehensive, and then they started to shuffle around the ATF people involved, and it kind of spiraled into nothing. It kind of ended. But at the same time, there was a portion of it that it involved some of the ATF people from the Phoenix office, and those people, with just a passing awareness of the whole thing, got the gist of it and said, "Oh yeah, we like everything about this." So instead of having a Mike, a person who was an FFL that was, concerned and brought it to their attention, they just went to FFLs and said, "Go ahead and let cartels," I think this is how it went. They just said, "Go ahead and let cartels buy guns. We're going to track them. Don't worry about it." And the FFLs were like, "All right." So that happened in Phoenix, kind of where the ATF just instigated it. Instead of it being instigated organically, let's say, the ATF in Phoenix office said, "Oh no, let's take this and run with it." They instigated it and took it to a much larger scale. And then it spiraled out into, "Oh, we don't know where all the guns are, and we're going to look pretty bad, so let's stop doing it." And they just essentially sent all the ATF agents to different countries, or not countries, but different states, so that, just wasn't an issue, because there was nobody there to think about it. It just disappeared at all. At least that's what I remember from reading it all and at the time. I'm probably mixing it up a little bit. It's been a few years. But Mike, in his book, he's a writer, so he's able to, in an interesting way, describe the various facets of it, and then speculates a bit on why the ATF, the administration essentially, would have wanted a bunch of guns from the United States in Mexico. Because remember, the precursors for fentanyl, the precursors for methamphetamine, the precursors for opium probably all come from, let's just say, outside of Mexico. We all know where they come from, but we'll just say outside of Mexico. So it's foolish to think that if the cartels in Mexico who have international contacts, if they weren't able to or didn't want the guns from the United States for some reason, they'd have hand grenades and guns and everything else they'd want from any country that would sell it to them, because they have contacts in all these different countries and they have underground black market channels in every country or through every country. So it's ridiculous to think that something about our firearms are more lucrative or attractive, other than maybe as mementos, or like Mike was saying, badges of count and coup or something. Like, oh, we've got guns from the U.S. It's even funnier because it bothers the U.S. or something when we do that, because they could just as easily ask, again, one of the countries that creates precursors for precursor chemicals for the things they make. They probably get apparatus from these countries too, so it's foolish to think that those countries couldn't supply the firearms that they might be interested in. All right, well, we're going to end this one. It's been about 38 minutes. What I'll do is go through and find some of the interviews. I know we've interviewed quite a few of people I was interested in. There was only a few people I was never able to interview, basically usually due to time. Professor Yamane, I've been wanting to interview him, and he had moved, and now he's writing a book. I want to get Crump on here. I think I might start it off with Crump. He's about to write a new book about firearms inventors, I think, or at least inventions. Is it inventors? And we'll chat about that. I'd like to have some people on a second time. Meet the Pressers and Riding Shotgun with Charlie do a collaborative conversation with people that they've both had on. So I might intertwine some of that. So with this Monday show, again, our focus is to talk about the people who are doing stuff, the people who have done stuff, the people who are about to do things that are focused on what our Second Amendment protects. So over the years, again, I kind of listed some of them, but we've interviewed people and had conversations, either live or recorded and then broadcast, with all kinds of people from different realms, and we'll restream some of that. We'll have live intermixed with that, and then, like I say, we'll try to do some collaborations as well. So let's say hey to the people that are joining us live out there. Let's see. Started off with Roy joining us first. Again, this was unannounced today, so thanks to the people that are jumping in. DJ saying, what a cool project. Thanks. It's got links to their Patreon out there. Thanks for posting those. We have a link at the bottom of the screen here, right below the puppy, that says our Patreons make it possible for us to spend time on projects like these. Thank you. So this is all just to help get information out there, hopefully inspire some people. You might notice that things change. People that maybe you started hanging out in the internet or on the YouTube or in the social platforms with, they may have changed or moved or evolved or maybe even stopped doing what they're doing. So having involvement and keeping people going is what it's all about. Patreon is a way for us to support each other as capitalists with the resources, the financial resources that make it possible. And for us, it's server space. We have 3 servers that hold several hundred websites. Dozens of them do stuff. There's hundreds. There's a bunch of them that are semi-dormant, but have been useful over the years. But dozens of them that are effective and doing stuff right now. And those require some software, nothing huge, but we're very frugal. We've been doing this for a while, and I'm not fancy, so bare minimums essentially. Every once in a while, we have something nice out there, if it's effective or useful. But for the most part, those Patreons support those servers, the software, and then the time, because it does take some time every once in a while to devote to maintenance, update, keeping track of stuff. And then the best part is the creative new stuff when we build. And we've had the pleasure of building stuff for years, live online, teaching people the techniques, the research methods, and then the results of that research, and then having conversations about the accumulated data and how to present it. And then once it's presented, going back and looking at it like we're doing here in a way. So again, thanks DJ for putting the link there, and our Patreons for making it possible for us to do this without, I'm not trying to tell you no grip angle. I don't give a shit if you buy a new gun today or if you buy ammo or if you're worried about any kind of shortage. Like, that's all your business. We're talking about the stuff that matters here. And again, it's our Patreons that make that possible. So thanks for posting that link. Then M. Gabriel said, hey. Let's see. Roy was saying, I can't believe it's been so long since Fast and the Furious. It's for sure. I mean, every single day things keep going and sun keeps coming up. Eclipses and meteor showers. Those punctuate the eons. So don't take nothing for granted. We're here for a little bit, like this little bit right here. Appreciate the time we got, and let's not forget those things that in this case were so significant. We're so illuminating, I guess, as to what the bureaucracy can hide and what people in the bureaucracy can have the audacity to do. And if we don't hold them accountable, then what they're able to get away with. They're not able to get away with nothing when people like Mike are writing books and we're having these conversations to keep people aware of the bad things that happen. Let's see. Looks like a fair representation here. That would be a smaller room connected to the main area. Oh, you're talking about as far as the gun show? Yeah, definitely. I have seen gun shows where the main room might have a smaller room like this. And sometimes it'll be like, oh, that's where all the taxidermy is. Or that's where all the knives are. They're not always that cool, but sometimes they're that cool. There was this one hotel that they were doing some shows in, and the main room just was not that big, so it had 2 other rooms sometimes, and then I think there might even have been a tent at sometimes, because we have the gem shows here in Tucson, so there's lots of facilities that are kind of, is that ad hoc, is that the right word? DJ saying when we did the larger shows around here, we did 8 tables for almost all of our long guns, ammo, and I don't know what that means. And a small show like an FOE or a Legion Hall. We did half that. Well, 8 tables is essentially an island, so that's pretty decent. That's what Mike would have done at his when he was doing shows. He had enough going on to have 8 tables. So you figure 8 tables, depending on when you did it, it's either $50 or $100. So you're talking either $400 or $800 just to have that real estate. Then you got some employees and probably some other expenses, and then imagine how much money people are making at gun shows. It's pretty cool. As GJ said, I made a ton of great friends and saw immense amounts of cool shit. Love the oddball stuff. Yep. Well, if you go to enough gun shows, it's like you're swimming in it. So you're gonna look around at the stuff you like, and then you're gonna find something new you like. Then you're going to find something else, and then somebody's going to ask you something about something you could care less about, but you're going to go look around the gun show for it anyway. And then maybe your friend shows up and they're looking for something you could care less about, but you're helping them look for it. And all of a sudden, where all the regulars are and what they got, and when they change up, it's real easy to see. And you pretty much know the lay of the land there. You're just monitoring it and maintaining your awareness at that point. So when you decide to do something new, you know exactly what's going on or where to find it. The oddball stuff. If you decide, I'm gonna get into hunting, you know exactly which tables to go visit and get caught up on it. Like a microcosm of the community right there in most gun shows. Gunswire says, don't forget this coincides with Hillary pushing legislation to screw border states with gun control because Mexico is supposedly the victim of our 2A freedom. Yeah, and that was, maybe part of a bigger orchestration. Is that the right word? Or like a bigger little dance they were trying to do. And it's hard to say. But it would be neat to see something like a Schoolhouse Rock. And instead of the multi-million-dollar national organizations spinning their wheels or wasting their time doing what they've never done before, I'd like to see some stuff like that. I'd certainly do it if I had more Patreons. We had about 100 more Patreons. We'd be kicking out stuff like Schoolhouse Rocks, presenting these little pieces of history so that they're, one, not forgotten, but also turned into jingles so that they're never they're never removed from our conversations. Like, they're always pertinent. Think about how persistent, that's the right word. Let's make these things persistent in our conversations. Think about how long Schoolhouse Rock has been, on our minds. Most of us can probably sing those freaking songs. So, we only seen them for however many, Saturdays or whatever it was, but we still, we got that programming. Why are we not doing that now? We have memes and all that. Come on. Guitars and Gats is out there. This is a good show. Looking forward to next Monday. Right on. Thanks. We have excuse me. Puppy has a new tiny guitar here. That's our new intro music on the tiny guitar. All right, put that back up so it's rude. He's going to play it kind of like a steel guitar because his elbows or whatever. He's practicing. Eventually he'll get it. Or he'll get a whooping. One of the two. I got shot collars. Oh, you know what? I can hork. Hold on. Let me hork Mike Ritland's Patreon thing. Thanks to our Patreons. Otherwise, this dog wouldn't get fed. I'm not saying it's our Patreons that feed this dog. I'm just saying he wouldn't get fed if we didn't have Patreons. All right, well, let's go back to here again. Or actually, we don't do anything anymore. I guess we're done. Eagles Hall, Geegaws, trinkets and stuff. Okay. Community centers, school gymnasiums, county fairs. I haven't had a real gun show in a school gymnasium. I mean, I have back in the olden days, but this was a pretty small show. Usually the small shows are in VFW halls or something that size. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us live. And we'll be back next week. If you've got suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you're listening to this in the podcast, we're doing this for the audio podcast mostly. So they're not even seeing the co-host doing his little dance here, getting ready to take his nap. A nappy nap is what he calls it. He was super excited from going up to Phoenix the other day, going around to people's houses and playing with their dogs and stuff. He learned about a new neighbor dog he didn't know about today and had a big yappy fit at that neighbor dog. So he's about exhausted. The people that are listening to this as a podcast can't even see that I'm rubbing his face and keeping him awake. And he's desperately trying to fall asleep. He's not the sleepiest co-host we've ever had. But anyhow, thanks to everybody who's joining us on the podcast out there, giving us the thumbs up or the hearts or the whatever. What else would they give you? Check mark? I don't know what else is out there. I'm trying to think of what Apple uses. But also, if you can leave us comments out on the podcast things, those are always useful. One, it gives us something else to respond to, and it engages those logarithms out there. There he goes. He's sleeping. So with that, we'll end this one. We'll be back with the next episode in about a week. I'm going to throw a quick commercial out here for our store. I want to thank the people who have been buying stuff over at the store. Another way to support what we got going on. See you next time.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.